The Steven Crowder drama continues, and it is honestly just getting worse and worse for this man. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate your continued support, and I hope that you will subscribe as well. So Steven Crowder came out a few days ago and told the world that he has been going through a very messy divorce over the last couple of years. I found his statements to be very misleading, especially considering the things that were released after his statement by his ex-wife and her family, and it has been something that has been weighing on my mind and something that I personally feel the need to talk about. Now, if this is a subject that you are not interested in, or you're annoyed about people talking about it, or it's not something you want to hear about, there will be no hard feelings from me if you just keep scrolling and choose not to watch this video. I completely understand. There are a lot of things that people talk about that I don't find interesting, and I just choose not to participate in those conversations. So if that is your feeling on this, you are welcome to keep scrolling, and I will catch you in my next video. I truly appreciate you, and I understand your perspective. So I'm sure a lot of you might be slightly familiar with what happened between Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire just a few months ago. Some of you may not know at all. So I am going to do a little bit of a recap about that situation, because I do think there are things that played out then that are relevant to the circumstances and the things that have come out over the last few days. But if you are completely caught up in that situation and you don't want to hear the recap, I will put timestamps so you can just kind of skip over this part and get to the commentary on what's happened most recently. So it was around December that Steven Crowder announced that he would be leaving The Blaze. And this really wasn't a surprising announcement because, he has a huge platform. When you have a huge platform as to, how big that Steven Crowder has grown his audience, you do have options. You do have the opportunity to say, I don't want to be with this company anymore. Maybe I want to go out independent, or maybe explore other opportunities. And that is perfectly fine. So that wasn't really surprising. There was no drama in that piece of it whatsoever. Him leaving The Blaze, it seemed like a natural move. Things happen. It was what followed that kind of had a lot of us questioning what the heck was going on, and also wondering what the heck was going on with Steven Crowder personally. He let everybody know that he had been in talks with the Daily Wire about potentially moving over to their platform, which seemed like a very natural move. I think once he announced that he was going to be leaving The Blaze, a lot of people were already thinking, is he going to move over to the Daily Wire? Or is he going to go independent? So that part was not a surprise. What was a surprise was the way that the information was relayed and the way the situation was relayed to everybody. When Steven Crowder went on his platform, on his YouTube channel, and told everybody essentially that he had been in negotiations with the Daily Wire, but their contract was unacceptable, and that, essentially painted the whole platform as running their business like a slave driver operation in a lot of ways. And it was bizarre. It was a really strange thing to do, especially since most of us were under the impression that Steven Crowder had been friends with everybody at the Daily Wire for a long time. And I think that is corroborated by numerous past experiences and interactions with numerous people on that platform. Going on his YouTube channel and essentially talking bad about everybody that we thought he was friends with was bizarre. But what was even more shocking was the fact that he felt the need to record a phone call between himself and Jeremy Boring, who is, I believe, the head of the Daily Wire, or the CEO of the Daily Wire, and to record this conversation to back up claims that he apparently must have already been planning on making, because why would you record a phone call between yourself and someone that you're negotiating a contract with for any other reason other than the fact that you already plan to make this public? So in response to the claims and the accusations that Steven Crowder was making, Jeremy Boring made an extensive video about the contract, kind of a baseline contract that is offered to pretty much everyone, but including some very specific things for Steven Crowder himself. And also Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro both made response videos to everything that was going on, and just essentially, very hurt and offended by this reaction from somebody, again, that was supposed to be their friend. And I think in the whole situation, it was the phone call recording that really rubbed people the wrong way, that just seemed to take things way too far, and there didn't seem to be any legitimate explanation or context that would make that okay, that would, make people understand that there was a need to do that. And the timing of it was questionable as well, because as we learned in follow-up videos and response videos from Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens, that the talks between Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire had happened in October. So this was months later where he decided to publicize this conversation and publicize this issue. And the timing of it just seemed really strange. Like, it's almost like he realized that he was going to have to be completely independent and on his own. And he, almost in a calculated way, wanted to use this situation to drive viewers away from the Daily Wire and to follow him because he was feeling extremely unstable about the future. The things that we saw in his behavior and his handling of that situation are similar to how we are seeing him handle things now. So he took it upon himself to make an issue public that never needed to be publicized. And he manipulated the narrative and wanted us to believe certain things about the Daily Wire before the Daily Wire had a chance to say anything. And he completely blindsided them with this narrative. So it would be easy to come to the conclusion that he was using this situation to drive viewership up on his own independent channel, knowing that he was going to have to go out on his own. At the end of the day, the dust settled. Everybody kind of went back to their lives. There was this lingering question of why he did all of that, but all in all, the Daily Wire continued with business. Steven Crowder went off on his own and everything seemed to be fine. And people got over it and did their thing, whether they continued to support him or not. It was fine. And then the dust started to be kicked up again. About 10 days ago, Dave Landau, who was a former co-host on Louder with Crowder, did an interview with a commentator named Michael Malice. And in the interview, he essentially talked about how difficult of a person Steven Crowder is to work for, alleging that most of the people around Steven Crowder just kind of go along with whatever he wants because he's intimidating and they just don't want to deal with the backlash. He also talked about some of the ways that he felt he was being overly controlled and micromanaged while working for Steven Crowder, and also described a pretty intense verbal altercation that they got into over the phone where Crowder was allegedly screaming so loud that Dave's apartment neighbors could hear it through the walls.
So I just texted Steven and said, hey, I just talked to the showrunner. I just want to make sure it's still cool that Matt comes in. And he texted me something back along the lines of, what's done is done. I said, what does that mean? It's your show, which is ironic. That's what he said. And my phone rings. And, I don't want to go greatly into the conversation between us, but he's like, do you still want to be on Louder with Crowder? And I said, not at the moment. And, he starts going off on me, and now there's a ton of people in my apartment who can hear it.
Wait, he's literally raising his voice?
He's screaming at me.
Okay, so literally raising his voice, not just being stern, like to the point where it's audible.
It's audible, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, it's started stern, but then it got into telling me that he owns me. And
in those words?
So yes, there are two sides to every story, and this is Dave's version of events, but after seeing what happened with Steven Crowder in the Daily Wire and how that was handled, when someone else comes out and says their own experiences of working with somebody that is very difficult to work with, and who already seems like a diva and already seems like they have a controlling streak, it does lend a certain level of credibility. And a few days later, Steven Crowder opened up on one of his shows by revealing something that had been going on in his personal life for a couple of years now.
I have been living with a proverbial boot on my neck for going on years now. Since 2021, I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say on the outset, to be clear, there is no infidelity, any kind of physical abuse at all on either side. And no, this was not my choice. My then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore. And in the state of Texas, that is completely permitted.
It's a little dramatic, a little disrespectful, a little bit in poor taste. But that is a long time to be dealing with a stressful situation. But honestly, I don't think anybody knew about it. I even saw a video, I believe it was Lauren Chen, that was talking about the interview between Dave Landau and Michael Malice, and I saw in the title it said something about Steven Crowder's messy divorce. And I took that to mean the messy divorce of partnership between Dave Landau and Steven Crowder. I had no idea that it had anything to do with his wife. And not that I'm in these bigger circles, but I think, you know, as you see different people comment on it, it's reasonable to conclude that literally nobody knew about this. So initially, when you hear that he's going through this situation and it's been going for a long time, it does make these other erratic and uncharacteristic behaviors make more sense. Not that it excuses them, but it provides a little bit more context as to why someone would become angry and emotional and slam their friends all over social media and do something that they might not do otherwise. I know that, you know, when people are stressed and when they're spiraling, we're all susceptible to behave in ways that we might not have behaved under normal circumstances, under normal situations. But that's where giving Steven Crowder grace ends. In this same video, he insinuates that Candace Owens knew the whole time what was going on, which she didn't. And she used her knowledge of this divorce to extort Steven Crowder into being quiet about his grievances with the Daily Wire.
Any other people knew about this behind the scenes. Some, not all, but some of them in positions of power, influence, leverage, knew of this. They also knew that the safety of my children included keeping it private. So if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Steven has a lot going on, I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their lives. I would like to implore my audience and everybody that isn't paying attention to this situation not to condemn him, but to pray for him. Sometimes people need a prayer. Sometimes people need a scripture. You know, Steven purports to be a Christian. I am unsure at this moment if it is my place to say more than that. You know, maybe if I feel in further defense, some things should be said, or maybe if I feel that the public has a right to understand certain circumstances.
I didn't hear extortion in that video clip at all. I understand that there are certain legal ways that you can phrase things that might come across that way, and her saying, you know, this is all I'm going to say about it, but if I feel the need to bring it up again in the future for defense, or however it was that she said it, then I might have to do so. And so I understand, if I'm stretching, that I can understand why he would see that as a thinly veiled threat, but he would also have to prove that she knew about his divorce. And in her response video, she lets him know, I had no idea. All she did was put two and two together in saying that he's acting erratically. He is acting, you know, uncharacteristic of him. He just blew up all of these friendships. So putting two and two together, it's easy to come to the conclusion and say there must be something going on behind the scenes. There must be something going on in his life to make him act so irrationally. When it comes to this whole divorce situation, in Steven's version of events, he describes this divorce as, again, having this proverbial boot on his neck for 2 years. He says that the divorce was not his choice and that the whole thing rests on him because he, quote, picked wrong.
It's pretty simple. I loved a woman so much that I married her. A woman who, despite all of this, I still love as the mother of my children. And she wanted something else for her life. That's not my choice. She simply wanted out, and the law says that that's how it works. Now, of course, look, I get it. There are multiple sides to every story, but one thing that is undeniable in this case is that it's no one's fault but my own in that I picked wrong, and that's certainly not the fault of my children.
But this carefully crafted message is the narrative that he is trying to paint about this divorce. And again, this is the first that probably 99.9% of people are hearing about it. You know, we don't know what's going on. Nobody knew that he was going through this divorce. Nobody knew that, you know, he was under all of this stress. Like, this is the first we're hearing about it, and it's just a very interesting way to frame it. And of course, there are two sides to every story. We know that. But what's unfortunate is that Steven Crowder has this multi-million viewer platform to tell his side of things and to craft the narrative however he wants to make it sound. But his wife doesn't have that. And in Candace Owens' response video, she invited Hillary Crowder to come on her platform and to make her voice heard, to tell her side of things, to give her that equal playing field if she so chooses to do so. And not that we need more people airing their dirty laundry in public, but she should have the same kind of voice that Stephen has for himself and that Stephen seems to be taking advantage of. Well, after all that, things not only got bad, they went from bad to so much worse. So a couple of days ago, probably about 3 or 4 days ago at this point, Hillary and her family released video footage and text messages and court documents and financial records to a journalist named Yashar Ali, who did an entire article on Substack telling her side of things. And it's not good. Again, I'll link the article in the description box below. But in this article, there's a 3-minute video clip of Stephen Crowder and his wife Hillary. They're on their back patio, and she is 8 months pregnant with twins at this point, and he is just berating her over not completing what he calls her wife duties. So what led up to this situation, I guess, is that their dog needed to have this particular medication given to them, but Hillary was concerned about having contact with this medicine because she's pregnant, which I understand, because being someone, when you're pregnant, there are a lot of things that can have risks that you don't encounter, that you don't think about. When I was pregnant, had my babies, we had cats, and that it's common knowledge that you're not supposed to clean out litter boxes when you're pregnant. So my husband did it all 3 times that I was pregnant, and he didn't complain about it. He doesn't even really like our cats that much. He just did it. So I understand her concern. So that's what was leading up to this video. So I'm going to play the whole 3.5-minute clip. And I do want to put in just a slight trigger warning here. It is very demonstrative of controlling and manipulative behavior. And if you have been in this situation, you might recognize the emotional abuse as it is. But I want you guys to have your own opinions of it. It's 3.5 minutes long. If you don't want to watch it, just skip over it and we'll talk about it on the other side.
I drew a boundary. I drew a boundary. No, you just did it. I drew a boundary of abusive and cruel. You were not taking the car. Because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries.
There is no groceries. I do have
steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's not a reasonable request, but I'll go do it. How about you first? Hillary, how do you respect the man? Yes. How do you man respect? How do you man receive love and respect? Respect. No. How do you man respect? No, you're not taking the car.
Stephen,
you're not taking the car.
Stephen,
you are not.
Then I will ask them to pick me up. Would you like me to ask?
Oh, that's right.
It's not correct, Stephen.
Get an Uber.
Okay, Stephen, I can't.
Feeling some constraints?
Stephen.
I can't go. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't be home. You're going to take the car and leave me here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. That doesn't work either.
Stephen.
Do you understand the difference between my life being set to the second and you going, I'll be back when I'm back?
Stephen.
You're making it work. Can you do that? The only way out of this is discipline and respect. If the only way out of it, then we're at an impasse.
We are at an impasse.
Good. Because you can't have any discipline or respect.
Yeah.
There you go. You throw your hand, you give up so easily.
I don't give up, Stephen.
Hillary, you give up so easily. I just said the only way out of this is discipline and respect. And you said, then we're at an impasse.
Stephen, no, we are at an impasse, okay? I love you, but Stephen, your abuse is sick. Your abuse
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. Fucking watch it.
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. You need to just stop engaging for a little bit, okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you, and the fact is, when I go, look, I need you to do A, B, C, and D, you just be disciplined about it, you go, no. But I love you more than life itself. Okay. Put on some gloves. No. But I love you more than life itself. That's not fair. It's not fair, and it's disingenuous. Hillary, you're right, we're at an impasse. Become someone, listen to me, day in and day out, worthy of a wife Word? No, not as a wife. I didn't say as a wife. Hillary, come on now.
I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to engage anymore. I'm going to go. I'll text me what you need. I'll get you what you need. I love you. I'm committed to you.
Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm not going to.
Are you committed enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything. You just said I love you. I'm committed to it. Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm going to just
walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to get the medication the dogs take? No, you take that in.
With this video, Hillary's family released a statement, and this is what it says. It says, Hillary is currently living alone in Dallas, apart from her family and support system in Michigan, and is focused on taking care of her young children. She is not prepared at this time to speak about her divorce becoming public or the misleading statements made by Stephen about their relationship. The truth is that Hillary spent years hiding Stephen's mentally and emotionally abusive behavior from her friends and family while she attempted to save their marriage. She was the one who was asking to work on their relationship to keep the marriage intact for their unborn children. In June of 2021, Stephen left their home to pursue elective surgery. Hillary urged him to get the help he needed to address his abuse with the hope that their marriage could be saved and they could peacefully live together as a family. Instead, Stephen refused to do so and chose not to be with his wife during the birth of their twin children. After the birth, Stephen bought a townhouse and left their home permanently. Hillary was unaware that Stephen had hired a divorce attorney and asked his assistant to cut Hillary off financially. There is significant documentation substantiating these facts. We hope that Stephen will cease speaking publicly about these personal matters in an untruthful manner. We also look forward to there being full transparency in the legal process so there is fairness and accountability for the actions that caused the divorce and to ensure the outcome is what is in the best interests of the young children. So when I first saw this video, full transparency, I have been in a relationship like that before. So I could feel the anxiety that Hillary Crowder was feeling in that moment. I know that couples argue. Nobody is saying that they don't. You can even have really heated arguments. My husband and I have been married for almost 14 years, and we have definitely had our share of spats. But this particular argument here, what is happening in this situation, is not normal. This is emotional abuse. Period. The end. First, he is 100% controlling the situation, and everything in this exchange is about him and the inconvenience to him, and that because she's not doing what he asked or behaving in the way that he thinks that she should, she is not showing love to him and therefore not acting as a wife that is worthy of love. Instead of acknowledging the concerns that she has over dealing with the dog's medication that might not be the safest for her to handle as a pregnant woman, his solution is not to step up and do it himself, which he clearly has time to do because he's sitting on the patio berating his wife while smoking a cigar. His solution is to tell her to put on gloves and to do it. And if she doesn't accept his solution, then she's the problem. She's not fulfilling his definition of wifely duties. Then she's trying to go to the store. And again, the issue becomes about the inconvenience to him not having a car. And the solution, instead of him calling an Uber or making other arrangements if he needs to go somewhere, he tells his 8-month pregnant wife to get an Uber to go get groceries. In his mind, he is giving her the opportunity to be agreeable, and he's taking her request for a different solution as being disrespectful and undisciplined and uncommitted to him. And like I said, I can just feel her anxiety in this situation. She is desperate to get out of this argument, but he's not going to let her do that. She's doing everything that she can to de-escalate the situation. She's like, okay, I'll have someone come pick me up. Who should I call? She's trying not to engage, and she's letting him know, I love you, I'm committed to you, and she is trying to get things to a more calm situation. She is requesting to get space from him. But because she hasn't agreed to any of his solutions, then the discussion is not allowed to be over. And he says, you love me more than life itself. itself, but you won't give the dog its medication, or you won't take the dog for a walk. You say you love me more than life itself, but you want to take my car and leave me here so that I can't go see my friends. And then he says he doesn't love her and that she needs to be worthy of being a loved wife by doing all of these things, which is absolutely insane. In every single sentence, it's about what she's doing to inconvenience him, like making him have to get off his butt and give the dog medication, or making him have to figure out other arrangements if he feels inconvenienced by not having a car. It's about the fact that her not doing all of these things that he is outlining, it's a violation of the terms that he has set for his wife. And if she leaves the conversation before she's agreed to his terms and his solutions, then she's the problem. And I cannot even handle him saying to his 8-month pregnant wife, watch it. Like, that is threatening. So many people are just saying, oh my goodness, a couple fighting, like that's not big news. And a lot of people are accusing her of setting up this scenario as a fake scenario to create the narrative that she wants people to believe about Steven Crowder. They're saying that people behave differently when they know that they're being recorded, which I would agree with. If you look at Steven's recording of Jeremy and the conversation, you can hear Steven leading Jeremy towards the statements and answers that he wants to hear, that he wants to have recorded to support the narrative that he's already going to create. And I've seen a lot of people comment and say that emotional abuse is not a thing, which is so disheartening, because I understand that physical abuse is something that you can see and you can point your finger at it and say that's wrong. And when you're physically abused, the person makes you feel weak and powerless, and they make you feel like you're bringing it upon yourself, and that it's because you're not doing what they asked you to do as the reason for abusing you. And emotional abuse has that same impact. Belittling you as a person, making you feel worthless, telling you that you're not worthy, or that because you're not doing what they want, it's your fault that they don't love you the way that a spouse should. And then that person can literally make you feel like you're losing your mind. And in these situations, you get to the point where you will say and do anything to get that person to stop engaging in conflict with you. And it is nearly impossible to do that. And I wanted to talk about this because I know that there are so many people who have gone through this, and they need to know that this is not okay and that this is not normal, and that you are not crazy for seeing communication like this and manipulation like this as abuse. At the end of Steven Crowder's video where he told us all he was going through this divorce, this is what he said.
And I will say that what's in the best interest of my children is not internet drama, speculation, certainly not blatant or veiled shakedowns or dragging their father or mother, and I can't be clear on that enough, or their mother through the mud. And to anyone who tries it, I'm no longer going to pacify, capitulate, or sidestep, because I love them a whole lot more than I love you. And I will continue to do whatever is necessary to protect my children. Discussing the divorce any further on social media or on this show or in any public space is not what's best for them. I'll be handling this through the proper legal avenues and channels available as a matter of record, in which I have more than full confidence. So I'd ask that you understand the need for and respect our privacy in what is obviously a pretty tough time.
When I first heard this, I thought that Steven Crowder was directing his comments towards people like Candace Owens and the Daily Wire and public platforms for talking about this, which is really bizarre. It's because nobody knew about it. So nobody would have been talking about it if you didn't say anything. So this is just my opinion, but the more I thought about it, I honestly think he was directing those comments towards Hillary Crowder and her family. He's using the welfare of his children as a manipulation tactic to not say anything publicly or release the footage that they had, that he knew that they had. In my opinion, he's telling them that he has the legal means to retaliate if they make any of her side of the issue public. So in response to all of this, Steven Crowder released another statement saying he's essentially going to release everything.
I commented on my ongoing divorce on Tuesday, requesting privacy in the best interest of the family, but also by court order agreed upon by all parties. Look, broken marriages are ugly, and in them people do ugly things. Myself, of course included, I would never claim otherwise. However, due to recent misleadingly edited leaks to the tabloid press without context and not subject to consequences of the court, well, if not privacy, the next best option is truth. So today, I have filed a motion to officially unseal all files as they relate to the matter of legal record, finances, relevant medical records, including mental health history or evaluations, depositions, and any motions or sanctions from the courts of Texas. I will not be leaking private marital information to the press, but if the privacy agreements are not respected by all parties, I will address all that is a matter of irrefutable legal record in full context next week.
I don't think this is going to help his case at all. He tried to manipulate the situation with the Daily Wire, but the more information that came out, it just made him look more unhinged because it didn't line up with the narrative that he provided with us about the situation. It didn't line up with the things that he said. He tried to manipulate the narrative on this, and things are already not adding up in his favor. He said it was her choice to divorce, and it turns out the only reason she got a divorce attorney is because she discovered that he already had one. And he tried to say and paint this as she's leaving because she wants something different in her life, and that the only mistake that he made in the situation was that he picked wrong. A lot of people keep comparing this to the situation with Amber Heard, and to which I would say, yeah, she spent years twisting the public narrative about her relationship with Johnny Depp. But when all of the information came out and we had the whole picture, it just made her look worse. There are recordings of her laughing at Johnny Depp, saying no one will ever believe that she abused him, and she knew that if he said anything that it wouldn't shine a good light on him either and would expose a lot of things that were less than flattering. So she abused his silence so that she could say whatever she wanted, and never expected the public to side with him if the whole situation came out. I think it's kind of the same thing with Meghan Markle. She tried to use her platform to disparage the royal family, knowing they are constrained by their royal positions and their names to not retaliate or respond. And she abused their silence to say whatever it was that she wanted for her own personal gain. But the more information that has come out, the more people realize that she's the problem, and people are seeing her blatantly narcissistic behavior. And the thing is, with personalities like this, they never find fault within themselves. They are always the victim, and they will always try to justify the way that they acted instead of ever owning their part in the problem. I'm not saying Hillary Crowder is 100% innocent in all of this, because it does take two people to argue, but I guarantee that there will be a lot of spinning of this situation. And I understand we don't want women to make false accusations about abuse from men, because it does make it harder, as we're seeing, to believe women that are actually in abusive situations. And I know that we are all tired of people playing victims, and we are tired of people whining about their situations when a lot of times the things that they're whining about really aren't things worth whining about. But we can't become so desensitized to people that are actually in difficult situations that we roll our eyes at everyone. Even if I just saw this 3-minute video on its own with no other articles, no other context, no other response, there would be no way to justify treating your 8-month pregnant wife that way and speaking to her that way. There is no way to provide additional information or to provide things that we don't know that would say, this is why I talked to her that way. This is why I told her that she wasn't worthy of love, that she wasn't acting like a worthy wife, that, she needed to take an Uber to go get groceries, or me telling her to watch it, or any of the things that he said in that video. There is nothing that he can say to make it okay. And the fact that he thinks that he needs to release more information so that he can justify this behavior speaks volume. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Again, if it's not something you care about, just keep scrolling. We will talk and have a great conversation in the next video. Please like this video, share it with others if you feel it's worth sharing, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.